I'd like to start by sharing a story, my story. I live with chronic fatigue syndrome. I've been trying to explain this to my 71-year-old father for a couple of years. I'm not sure I'm getting anywhere. But I think it's a reflection of the confusion around the condition. It's very challenging. The sort of things that I have to manage to live with it successfully are fatigue, both physical and mental fatigue. That can be quite debilitating. Short-term memory issues, so my short-term memory could be quite dicey. An immune system that doesn't work properly, so I'm constantly prone to opportunistic infections. And if I'm not careful and I don't manage myself well enough, I can have a relapse. Okay? It's been the biggest challenge of my life. Both, it's cost me financially quite a lot. It's cost my relationship. It's been difficult on family. But I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm still able to be a productive member of society. And I think part of the testament of that is the resilience of the human spirit. But I'd like to say, ladies and gentlemen, that my story is not unique. My story is a story of overexertion that exists in many organizations for prolonged periods of time and the unintended consequences of that overexertion. And that brings me to the heart of really what it is that I'm talking about. My question sounds quite simple. Is there an ethical dilemma between generating healthy profits and having healthy employees? Sometimes people get irritated with me for asking this question because they say the answer is quite simple. Of course there is no dilemma. The two go together. But data on the state of human or employee well-being says there is a dilemma. A dilemma exists. There's a disconnect between what we understand and what we are doing and the results we are creating out there. The Mental Health Society of South Africa says the majority of people spend between 50 and 80% of their time at work. Did you know that? 50 to 80% of that time at work. Okay? I remember there was a time when I used to call my job my jealous husband. Very demanding, very possessive, didn't want me to do anything else. But behind that, there's another statistics. It goes further to say a little under 70% of those people will at some stage in their lives suffer such extreme and severe stress that they will be unable to do everyday things for some time at one point of their lives. Stress and mental disorders are said to be one of the biggest challenges of our time. Challenge to productivity and challenge the well-being of people. And stress manifests in many different ways. For some people, you understand it right as depression. By the way, that people who are taking antidepressants, even if they're not depressed because they're so overexerted that apparently antidepressants help you. And high blood pressure medicine helps you, apparently. If you have the right conversation, you're going to begin to understand what is going on. If it's not that, there's some of us who are self-medicating. Some of us are drinking too much, taking cocaine, or even using sex to feel better because our sense of well-being is taken away from us or it's not there. And it's leading to other serious illnesses like cardiovascular conditions. The way we responded to the pressures of the 21st century in terms of making profits are not working properly for us. And that's a conclusion I take from these statistics. And in fact, the statistics go to the point that the South African economy is losing 12 billion rands a year to absenteeism. 12 billion rands a year to absenteeism. And the vast majority of that absenteeism is caused by the lack of employee well-being. We have something that we need to deal with. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. I believe we're at a point where we need to reflect, to question our understanding of what productivity means, question our understanding of who we are, why we do what we do, how we do it. We just need to start questioning things. Okay? I would like to put forward 3 ideas or 3 shifts that I think need to happen for us to build better organization that can better balance employee well-being and health. The first shift that we need to make is to move away from an understanding and a narrow understanding that the purpose of an organization is to make profits. The purpose of an organization to make profits, and by the way, a lot of the time when people are talking about profits, they're talking about short-term profits, and when they're talking about short-term profits, they're talking about short-term profits at all costs. So if there are dead bodies along the way and we exchange stories about taking one pill or the other, it just simply is the way it is. I'd like to change that around and say, actually, the purpose of an organization is not to make profits. That's an outcome. And that all of us as organizations need to understand what our true purpose is. And at the heart of that purpose must surely be value creation, whether it's through a product that you've put together, a service, but that at the heart of it is value creation. And that we need to start thinking ethically about making these decisions so that when we're talking about profits, we're also talking about sustainability. And it's about mindfulness. If I'm making profits today at the expense of employee well-being, would you agree with me that I'm stealing from the profits of the medium to short term of the organization, and I'm stealing from the sustainability of the organization? That's what we are effectively doing. But the problem is our incentive structures incentivize us to think about profits now, not sustainability. But we are being called upon, even King 3 says, as organization, we need to exhibit good corporate citizenship. And by doing so, it's about also paying attention to the impact that you're having, not just for yourself, but the impact you're having on your employees and their families, the impact you're having on society. If you're creating profits and is creating problems on other aspects of society, then surely that's not an ethical decision. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the first thing that I want to talk about is that, and by the way, I've always said I would like to see a scorecard for shareholders. A scorecard for everybody else. I'd like to see a scorecard for shareholders so that they're given feedback about the implications of that decision on employees, on society. That's the first shift. The second shift that I'd like to propose is a shift towards humanizing organizations. It's a shift around embracing emotions and feelings. And it's a drastic shift for a lot of people because there is a view and a belief that we've carried that feelings and emotions don't belong in the workplace. Check them at the door, come in and do some work. But actually, it doesn't work like that. So long as our humans, our emotions and feelings, what we've simply done is avoid reality. And the avoidance has had an impact, actually, on the bottom line. If you think about it, if there are negative emotions within your organization, eventually, even if we don't talk about them, even if we don't acknowledge them, they come out in different ways. If people are under a lot of strain, potentially they start falling ill, or they leave the organization, or people start getting irritable with each other. Or if people are feeling fear, politics start developing within organizations. So unless we create time for honest conversations within organization to really talk about the emotions that are going on within the organization and how, and because very often they point to where the need for change is. So you need to have your fingers on the pulse of the emotion of your organization. I'd also like to say that I want us to feminize organizations. Yeah, the ladies are saying yes, yeah. And when I say feminized organization, I'm not necessarily saying that feminine traits are better than male traits. I'm simply acknowledging a reality. Work tends to have very masculine traits. That's what it is. It's about focus, it's about competition, it's about just get it done, okay? We need to focus that on being sensitive to the needs of the people who are depending on to get our objectives met. We need to be sensitive to making sure that we're building cohesive in teams where everybody feels a sense of belonging. Not everybody needs to be very, very strong and combative and arrogant to thrive in an organization. That's not why we hired people. We hired people because there is a skill that they have that we believe could add value. So we need to build organizations that support everybody to bring that skill to the table. I'd also like to say that a lot of the time we're in an energy exchange. Okay? When people feel a sense and that they feel that you truly care about them, what you get from them is loyalty, what you get from them is their energy back. When I talk about energy, people think it's an esoterical term. It's not. Think about it. If you enter into a relationship with someone and you are giving and they're always taking, what happens? You think, eventually you think this so-and-so. I'm not going to give him any more of my energy. It changes, and for this reason is why a lot of people become disengaged in the workplace. The third thing that I would like to advance is something that I saw in an interview with Tom Peters, who's one of the leadership gurus. He says the very essence of why you are a leader, and your very, very primary responsibility is to take care of the well-being of your people. Most people don't understand leadership as that. They understand it as looking after the hard numbers, the strategy, the etc. And the two come together. If you take care of your people, they'll hopefully be productive and allow you to get what you need to get. So he's advocating, and I love this, and I hope if there's one thing you take from my talk, it's this. He says, leaders must spend time experimenting. That is an important part of your leadership job, to experiment, not just do. And he says at the heart of experimenting is an acknowledgement that we don't know a lot of things about a lot of things, and so we're still figuring it out. Richard Branson recently conducted an experiment. I'm sure a lot of you saw that experiment. He said that he was giving his employees unlimited leave for as long as they want. Okay? And he was not going to call them. He was going to go on trust. And there's a reason for that experiment. By the way, he's not the first person to do that. Okay? People are beginning to understand that you need to create conditions where you can build high-energy organization, where people can be inspired, where people can bring their creativity, where people can have a sense of purpose. So that experimenting with all sorts of things. The one mindset that we need to move away from is a belief that there's a linear relationship between productivity and time spent working. And that's a reason for the long working hours. There's proof that that doesn't serve us, and it's not true. Okay? So people are experimenting with having sleeping rooms at work, giving people compressed weeks, all sorts of things, and also understanding, giving people flexibility, understanding that productivity doesn't happen between 8 and 5 only. It can happen anywhere. Okay? I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to experiment in order to get to a place where we can build organizations that allow the human spirit to thrive. Because I think it's only when we do that that we can build organizations that are sustainable, that are able to balance getting healthy profits and healthy employees. Thank you.